Hello, everybody. How's it going? So, couple things to get started with. The reason why I didn't do one of these yesterday is because I was sick. Wasn't feeling good, so pretty much just crawled back into bed at the end of the day. It was intentionally just to sort of lie down, but then I ended up sleeping until it was bedtime, and then Mom came in and said, "Hey, are you going to bed?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so," and so she turned my light off, and I actually, climbed into bed, but did not sleep well. Woke up pretty early this morning, all sweaty because I hadn't taken a shower after work and, hadn't changed into my pajamas and whatnot. So I got up pretty early this morning and took my sheets and everything and just went and washed them. So I still need to make my bed. I've got other sheets, but I just like reusing the same sheets just so I don't have to fold and put away the sheets that I just washed and unfold the sheets that are... I'm that kind of person that doesn't like to make new dirty dishes, so we'll try to reuse dishes or something, which isn't that difficult of a thing to do. Basically, if you've got a container that you're pulling food out of or you're working on it from, with however you're preparing it or whatnot, I usually try to find stuff like that to continuously reuse. The big difference is if you're ever doing something like working with meat, or if you're using measuring cups, you got to be careful about reusing those kinds of things. But if I'm pulling rice out of or just about anything, if I'm pulling it out of a larger container, normally what you would do is you would scoop out whatever you're going to use into a container to heat it up or whatever, eat out of. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll if I'm cooking into... If I'm using up enough, I'll usually take the scoop out and put the smaller portion into the smaller container. I put that back in the fridge and then use the large container to heat or mix up whatever it is which is not specifically related to what I was talking about, and also very far off from what I was originally trying to say. Generally speaking, I like to not cause more mess or work, I guess. I also like to trying to think of what's the proper word. Oh, just clean as I go. So if I've got a big pot or pan or something that I'm cooking, I made oatmeal for myself this morning. So once that was done boiling, I scooped out the oatmeal and then I washed the pot before I finished my meal. I got myself 2 servings, so I scooped myself a bowl, ate that, and then got some for my mom, and then put some into a container to put in the fridge, and scooped myself a last little bit, and then cleaned up the pot while it was still soft. So I just find it easier to do it that way. And also, and this is one fault about myself that I do realize is more of a hindrance than a help, is that I find it easier to relax and enjoy myself if I have everything done, if I don't have anything weighing on me, which is not how you should live your life. what you need to do is find ways to do things on moderation and not just wait for the perfect opportunity. I can only, pursue my dream or whatnot, or enjoy my life if only this, if only that. If I get to this point, I'll be stable, and there are times where you need to buckle down and make sure that you get stuff done. But if you're not living your life, if you can't enjoy things, if you're so worried about the food that you eat that you stress yourself out so much that you actually put on weight, no matter what it is that you eat, you might as well at least enjoy the food. I don't know where I saw this, but there's this saying of if you've eaten the poison, you might as well lick the plate, which is which is not the same thing, but it's just a really funny idea of, like, if you're gonna do something, you might as well go all the way in. If you've already failed your New Year's resolution, there's no point in like trying to continue it or get it back or whatnot. If you've lost your streak, you might as well just stop and start over. But the idea of, you've slipped up once, you might as well just throw it all away, kind of seems a little counterintuitive. But it's one of those things that makes you think more than anything. So either way, no matter how you think about it, I think can be really useful. So, but yeah, I like stuff like that. I like quotes and whatnot because they make you think. One of my favorite quotes is by I'm trying to think of how it's actually worded. But yeah, one of my favorite quotes is by Captain Sparkles, or Jordan Marin, who is a long-running family YouTuber. He's done Minecraft and stuff and whatnot. He's the person who inspired me to start my own channel. I had a friend that was like, I'm doing YouTube, you should join with me, and that kind of got me actually interested. But the reason why I actually started is because Captain Sparkles had a birthday for his channel, and so 3 days later I made my channel. And so yeah, I have like a lot of respect for him and the sort of stuff that he does, and the general process, and not just that he's like a what's the term? What am I thinking of? Basically, the idea that man, I'm struggling with words today. Being family friendly and being, viewable by a wide variety, and I get that that's a thing that YouTube does, but that has been one thing that has kind of inspired me, and in my process of trying to give back to the community and do my own stuff, I really have tried to do well at making sure that my content is, not just acceptable for, younger audiences or whatnot, but when I do my works, I really try to think of what would be again, acceptable is not the word that I'm looking for, but I would like to think that no matter what age or position you are, that some of the content that I make is decent or whatnot. And basically, that's something that I'm always thinking about whenever I am recording or I'm making something. I am thinking about who might watch this, whether you're 18 or 80. You know, you know, I'd like to think that I'm making something that, you know, again, is not just, community guidelines or acceptable for all ages, but, I do strive for a E for everyone, which I know is not true. But I'd like to think that, I would show anything on my channel to, my friends or their kids or my kids, all this sort of stuff. I'm aware of when I'm working on stuff. However, some of the D&D stuff, especially when I get into kind of scary or gory descriptions of things, specifically my Curse of Strahd campaign, I have age gated. But, I'd like to think, and I at least try to portray that the stuff that I work on would be interesting. But I am just like continuously repeating the same thing and not getting better at trying to explain it. So I'm just gonna give up and move on. Yeah. So I didn't do anything yesterday. I didn't even run my Wednesday D&D game yesterday, which is fine. I had already told people that I'm planning on not doing something Wednesday, which is unfortunate because, yesterday I was really thinking about the game that I wanted to play, and I was looking forward to it and whatnot. But I just knew that I wasn't in a good headspace, and I announced that at the beginning of the week because I'm not sure what's wrong with me, but I'm not doing well. I don't know if I've just sort of hit a rough spot and I need a break, or, little stuff is getting to me, but also at the same time, I think acceptable stuff is getting to me. And what I mean by that is I would, announce stuff, and then Wednesday people were like, so are we doing a game? And I specifically, made an announcement and said there will be no game. And people were like, I think he said that he was thinking about it. And I was like, no, I made sure to be clear and to announce it ahead of time so that people would know, and so that you guys wouldn't be waiting around wondering. It's this sort of respect thing that I think I try too hard and I care too much about a lot of different things because I'm trying to do the right thing and be respectful, because I know that, I make mistakes, I mess up, I slip up. But more than that, people have messed up on, people have let me down. And so I don't ever want people to go through that. That's sort of how they describe the hero mentality, is like a villain will experience something and want to share their pain and experience with the rest of the world, while meanwhile a hero will experience something and say that they don't want anyone to go through what they did. So that's why they work so hard and fight. make sure that no one has to suffer the way that they did. Which I don't know how much I agree with. I think it's a nice sort of mentality to kind of say, but I don't know if that's completely true. And, there are always, anti-heroes or villains that, are understandable and whatnot. So, I don't know if that's the pure definition of what a hero and villain is. Again, a person can do heroic things. They can save people or do all this great stuff, but you really can't do anything that earns you the title of a villain or a hero, or you can't really earn titles. There are specific things that might dictate your actions as related to such, but there's never anything specifically that you can do that signifies that. Because the whole point of a title such as that is that it's given to you by people. A very common, a movie that's very relatable and still valid within the time scheme is something like Megamind, where there's the very obvious Metro Man, and he flies around, saves the day, and defeats the villain. But really, the purpose of the story is to prove that a hero and a villain are only such because they are in opposition to one another. Megamind was never really a villain until, the kids in school villainized him. It was specifically Metro Man that was trying to be liked and to be a hero that, people declared him as the good guy. But in a way, Metro Man was forced to be the way he was because that's what people expected of him. And so in an act of pure desperation and his own free will, he chose to abandon that and, pursue his own life and, take a break and take care of himself. And in doing so, he allowed the villain to take control. But by being in control and therein actually being in the position that Metro Man was, Megamind learned what the idea of responsibility is. He wanted to be a villain, and that's why he made a new hero. But he only wanted to be a villain because that's what he thought he was good at. That's what he only thought that he could be. And it wasn't until the hero that he created turned into a villain that he learned that he could be a hero. It's this weird, sort of definition of, like I said, heroes are the opposite of villains, and villains are the opposite of heroes. So, Titan could have been a hero, but he chose not to be. And that's one of the things he experienced. He wanted to be liked by the girl, and he wasn't, so he took out his wrath and anger on the city, which Megamind never really did. He really only focused on drawing the attention of Metro Man and trying to get back at Metro Man and do all this stuff against Metro Man. He never really, in his designs, did anything to hurt the city until Metro Man actually, left. Or faked his death, rather. Spoilers. But yeah, it's a very good example of what it means to be something, and how your position in life is really dictated not by who you are and who you want to be, but what the world sees you as, which is a very bad way to live life, but is unfortunately the truth. I am out of water, so I will be back. Speaking of breaks, labels, and being defined by the community, that's sort of what this little chat is about, as introduced by the title, "Much Needed Breaks." The other two things that I did, the other two streams videos that I did, I named after the fact. But this one I actually named first because it is something specific that I do want to talk about. Again, reiterating the fact of what these little sit downs are all about is for me to first of all stop, to sit down, spend a dedicated amount of time to just unwind, rewire, shift gears, just sort of work through things. Just sort of sit down, talk, and, allow my thoughts to become manifested, to have them realized and be out there. One of the things that is very commonly suggested for therapy and whatnot is to have a journal or a diary or what have you, to have some way that you can, notate your daily life. What you're thinking, what you're feeling, what happened, what's important, by actually identifying things and more of actually going through the process of physically manifesting your thoughts rather than actually, deciding. It can really help your brain sort of define things and decide stuff. So that's why in school when a teacher is teaching a class, they will do different things to help people learn differently. There's stuff like physical handouts, so or they encourage people to take written notes because sometimes people don't take in information audibly. It's much better for them to actually I think it's called kinesthetic learning. Basically, if you yourself write it down in whatever translation it is that your brain needs in order to understand it, it can help learn. Also by reading stuff. That's what I did. Being able to read it at my own pace, and sort of, look up words and definitions and figure out stuff and whatnot, basically helps me work through the process and understand stuff. There's also like visual, some people are visual thinkers and learners, and the two don't have to be connected. I would say that I'm a very visual thinker, Whenever I read or listen to something, there is like a movie happening in my mind that's describing the events, whether it be a book that I'm reading or a podcast that I'm listening to, all this different stuff. But yeah, if you can do things either physically or whatever it is, it can really help your brain work through stuff better. Basically, is the whole point that I was trying to get to. I don't remember what my point was with all of this, other than let's see, visual. Oh, yeah. So what I'm doing with these little sit downs is I am, mandating that I sit down, set aside some time to just talk. Even if I'm just talking to myself. These are streaming into the void, whether these are, audio journals for me to look back upon later. And I've said this multiple times, but I'll go ahead and reiterate it here. That was one of the biggest clinchers for me to start doing YouTube. I had the one friend that was like, hey, play games with me on my YouTube channel. And I was thinking, I could do that too. And I would actually put more effort into my videos. I would edit them. I would do little animations. I would subtitle them. All this stuff that wasn't just raw footage. But one of the things that made me consider, having my friend introduce the aspect that they were doing YouTube made it seem real, made it seem like an option. One of the things that made me legitimately consider it is something that I was already thinking about, but something that I sort of nailed down and discovered when listening to Captain Sparkle's birthday video, annuary video that he did, was that, there's so much stuff going on that people really stop to consider the impact that they make. But and I don't remember exactly how it went, but basically I decided that I don't want to just be taking from the world. I want to give back, because everyone's insight, everyone's perspective can be extremely, enlightening for some random person. And as long as you can get it out there, share it some way, it can really help people. At least that's my experience. I've had people that don't even know I exist, that I have, passed through the same, I've walked the same places, breathed the same air as them, and they, don't know I exist. So not just like celebrities and whatnot, but actually people that I probably could have interacted with, impact my life in such great ways that they would never know and understand. But that's why that's one of the main reasons why I turned away from depression and shutting myself up and shutting myself in, because I didn't want to just give up and fail. I wanted to at least do something to sort of help people that were in situations that I was. Because, I was in this state where I was crying and begging and pleading for something happen. Somebody help me, save me, do anything. And to reach out for anything and have nothing respond is the worst feeling in the world. And so I crawled my way out of that. And I made sure that I was always reaching out to people and helping them and, talking to people that were quiet. And, for the most part, they were fine and not nearly as bad as I was. But that's why I just don't stand idly by anymore. There was one thing that I just remembered as talking to Captain Sparkles, because I had mentioned about quotes. Some of my favorite quotes. Captain Sparkles' quote is, there's a little bit of weird inside all of us. It's just up to us to accepting it. Or something along those lines. Basically understanding that, and I think there was a Picasso quote or something of like, we're all artists. It's just managing to hold on to that as we become adults. So there's this sense of creativity and wonder and excitement and joy that every kid usually has, but because the world tells them to grow up and mature and stuff that down and or burn it and get rid of it, that makes the world so dull and dark as it is. And so that's why when I see people that are far older than me, that don't seem that much older than me, that are really inspiring of, the aspect of that they're actually able to reach me, which gives me hope, but also the fact that, they're quite a bit older than me, so I do still have time and can still do stuff when I get to that age, which is reassuring. I think one of my other favorite quotes is by Mr. Bean, which he said, people say like, Mr. Bean, one of the funniest persons in the world, has one of the saddest quotes, which is, I like it when it rains because nobody can see me cry. Which is true. And then I think my last quote that is really good is by Kesha, which is, be yourself unapologetically, which is just phenomenal. Also, that was the first time that I ever seen unapologetically as a word, so I had to look that up because I was like, is that a word? Did she just make that up? That sounds like something that she would make up, but no, it is a word. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the reason why I do YouTube is to give back to the community. But one of the main reasons why I like it, now that I'm getting back on topic to what I was originally talking about, is that YouTube has been a way for me to manifest memories, because my brain is not so good. I have a lot of trouble holding on to things. I didn't learn well in school. It was difficult for me to process stuff and work through stuff. And I really can't remember much of anything. A lot of it's just sort of blankness. But the stuff I do hold on to is the stuff that I'm currently working on and currently dealing with, for, all this this fake stuff, this imagination that I've got, these worlds that I'm building, these stories I'm writing, all that stuff, again, isn't, clear and concrete, and I lose a lot of it. but I'm able to work through the process in order to figure it out. Not like a mind palace. I'm not a visual person like that, but if I think about like this one book, I'm like, okay, so what were the characters, and what happened, what was the beginning and the end, structure the skeleton out, and then I can generally figure out, order of events and whatnot. That's why math was one of the few classes that I was actually decent at, because it wasn't like history or geography or science or writing or whatnot, where you had to literally look at a book and memorize stuff and then regurgitate it. With math, you can at least figure it out. There's a process. And yes, I would do addition and multiplication and division out long ways, which was fine, because most of the time people wanted you to show your work, but I had to work through my stuff all the time. I didn't know what 4 times 5 was. I had to know that there's the rule of 4 times 5 is 4 divided by 2 times 10. Where if you take half of 4 and then multiply it by 10. So half of 4 is 2, and then you multiply 2 by 10, so that's 20. So 4 times 5 is 20. That's how I solve math. I don't think of like 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. 4 added together 5 times. That is how I do work most of the time. Especially when it comes to, subtractions and whatnot. So something like 6 plus 16, which is 6 plus 6 is 12, and then 12 plus 10 is 22. Or usually what I would do is like 16 plus 6 is 16 plus 4 plus 2, because 4 plus 2 is 6. So 16 plus 6 is 16 plus 4 plus 2. And I know that 6 plus 4 is 10. So 16 plus 4 is 20. And then 20 plus 2 is 22. Yeah. But that's how I think about stuff. And everybody thinks about stuff differently. And that's something that people don't realize, is that you can't just teach something and expect people to know it. You can't just describe something or argue or yell at someone, loud enough. Like, it's so obvious, it's so clear, I'm saying it as perfectly as possible. You don't know how they think. You don't know how they translate what you're saying. You don't know, what it means to be, like, what they're going through. Yeah, people just don't care sometimes, which is really upsetting. Or they either don't realize or don't care. But, I've gotten distracted from the topic again. The reason why I'm doing these little recordings is so that doing these daily, maybe they will start getting me some acknowledgement on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe I can start getting some interaction with people. That'd be pretty nice. No, not looking too expectantly for it. Can't be disappointed if you're expecting mediocrity or nothing, I guess. is the reason why I stopped celebrating my birthday. Originally, my philosophy is, if you like somebody and want to honor them and respect them, I don't see why you have to do it on just one day in particular. If you want to give them a gift, you can do it whenever. You don't have to wait for, you know, the stars and moons to align, and then it's okay for you to, do something nice for them. I just thought that sort of situation was always kind of weird. But, anywho, again, I've gotten, distracted. The reason why I'm doing these is so that I give myself a break. And I need a break. I'm not sure what's specifically or particularly wrong with me, other than the fact that I am getting increasingly bothered by people, which is not a good place to be. I don't like getting irrationally upset. It's just sort of the situation that I find myself in, especially lately, and I wish I was better. I wish I wasn't such a, I don't know. If I knew how to fix myself, I simply would. I would just, put a stop to it. I would, separate myself from other people to make sure that I wasn't an issue for them. And then if there was a way that I could solve the situation, I would just take care of it. But oftentimes we need other people to help us, and oftentimes we need people that can be there for us and take care of us. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just I wish people tried as hard as I did, or cared, or noticed. But I know that everybody's not mean. Everybody thinks differently. Just because I am the way I am, I don't expect other people to also, think or do stuff in the same vein. I just, I don't know. I just wish there was a easy way to, help people realize what they're doing to other people sometimes. Because I don't think a lot of people do. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just sort of rambling at this point, so I should probably just call it